Hello, my name is Amy Blue, and I will be teaching this section of WGS300, American Trauma Narratives, Men and Women in Trauma. When you looked at EKU Direct and saw the name of this course, you likely saw Women in Trauma. And as we will be studying a lot of women and a lot of different kinds of trauma that women specifically face, this course will also venture outwards into more different kinds of genders. So the course will explore men, it will explore women, and it will also explore, in part, transgenders and intersexes. So the class itself has sort of broadened in scope since the conception of this class 2 or 3 years ago, and I'll tell you a little bit about what the reason that I'm teaching this course. About 3 years ago, when I was teaching at EKU, I met with a group of WGS 201 students, and I think it was my first semester teaching WGS 201 for EKU. And these women would come to me, not all of them, but I'd say out of the 25 who were there, at the end of the semester, around 7 women came to me. And our course had been pretty heavy talking about violence against women and violence against men and homosexuals. And so 7 or 8 of the women came to me at the end of the semester and said, you know, when we started talking about violence against women, it sort of stirred up some things in me, and now I'm confused, I don't understand, and I think I might have been raped. I think maybe I was abused as a child. I don't really know the answers to these questions, and I've studied psychological trauma, particularly psychological trauma in childhood and childhood sexual abuse for several years now, and I thought, who better to sort of start teaching this course than me? So I brought together those 7 women who had signed up who had asked me questions, and we all signed up for WGS 300 American Trauma Narratives, and that was our first semester. And what I found in teaching this course is that even if you weren't abused as a child, or raped, or sexually assaulted or molested, or mugged or robbed, there are many, many ways that you can be traumatized and that you can be exposed to trauma every single day. One of the most, probably the most attention-worthy, or the one that everyone's drawing attention to lately, is PTSD from the Iraq War. But what people often fail to realize is that it's not only those Iraqi war soldiers who are coming back who have PTSD, but we still have Gulf War soldiers and Vietnam War soldiers who are brothers and grandpas and husbands and uncles. So those men and women are still traumatized, right? And the people who have dealt with those people since they came back from, let's say, Vietnam War, right? The wives of those military men who came back from the Vietnam War traumatized have probably themselves been traumatized in the years since, and they have no idea how to deal with it. And so the basic argument that this course makes is that we live in a very trauma-unaware culture, although trauma surrounds us every single day, and we needn't have been severely traumatized by, you know, a grenade or a nearby death or a molestation in order to feel the ramifications and the effects of trauma. Simple things can traumatize people, and they don't even know that they're traumatized. They just start acting out or becoming a different person than they were before. So this course affects every single person. If you're not yourself traumatized, then you know someone who is, and if you don't think you know someone, you do. Alright, so we'll get into that as we go through the semester. That kind of gives you a little bit of an introduction to what this course is trying to do. If you want to scroll down a little bit on your syllabus, which I posted on the Facebook page this morning, you'll also see my name, Amy Blue, my email, blueamy@msu.edu, and that email is not my EKU email. I check my EKU email periodically, but I'm a student, a PhD student in literature at Michigan State University, and so that's my primary email address. So you can choose to email me through Facebook, which is fine, or you can give me emails through my msu.edu email if you need to attach a document or something like that. Our Facebook page, my Facebook page, I'm sorry, is there beneath that, facebook.com/abluedude. And my Skype address, abluedude, is also there, and you'll see in a little while on our syllabus why you need to know those 2 things. If you scroll on down, let me check my time, I'll be periodically giving you lectures through YouTube. The YouTube has a 10-minute time limit, so at times I'll have to stop right where I'm talking and then move on to another video. So that's why I'll keep checking my time. Alright, so I'm going back to our syllabus, scrolling down. The 2 pieces of material that you need are Judith Herman's Trauma and Recovery and Dorothy Allison's Bastard Out of Carolina. So let me go ahead and give you a quick introduction to Judith Herman's Trauma and Recovery. This is a pretty short book. I think it's in the 200s or something, 250 or so, and it is probably the best and most concise trauma manual that I've ever seen. Not only does it have everything that I've ever read kind of summarized, it also has extensive chapter notes and a really awesome index in the back, and you'll see where that might come in handy as we go through the semester and for your final assignment in this class. So this is a fantastic manual. I suggest that if you have any interest in this topic, or if you know people who are recovering from trauma or who are experiencing trauma, or if you just know people who may eventually experience trauma, that you consider keeping this book as a reference manual for yourself, because it is probably the best one that I've ever read. Okay, so we're going to be reading from that, Trauma and Recovery. We're going to be reading almost the entire book. I've removed some sections that don't directly apply to what we're talking about, but we'll read most of that text. And then the second book that we'll be reading from is Dorothy Allison's Bastard Out of Carolina. This is my version from years ago. The copy that I put on order from the EKU bookstore is also fine, or any copy that you can find. We won't be going by page number, we'll be going by chapter, so you can find any version of that book, and that's fine. Some people have asked me in the past, do you suggest that we watch the movie? And no, I don't suggest that you watch the movie. Maybe watch the movie after you've read the book, but the movie does not do the book justice. It does not get into the details that we will be discussing primarily from a psychological traumatic standpoint. So I would definitely urge you to purchase the book itself, the text, and read from the book instead of watching the movie. So those are the two books that are required for this course. I'll also be adding additional readings from the free internet. I'll be pulling up lots of poetry for us to read, and I'll explain that as we go along. Why do I keep bringing up fiction and poetry? I know that I'm a literature major, but why besides that am I bringing up this literature and this poetry? And there is a specific reason, and I'll explain that as we go through the course. The other required materials you can see there. You'll definitely need a Facebook account. You may need a YouTube account. I give you the option later on between writing your end of the week responses or posting them on YouTube, so that's your choice. So if you think that might be something you're interested in, go ahead and create a YouTube account. I think I have enough time in this broadcast, another 3 minutes or so, to go through some of the course objectives. I'm interested in all of them, and I think that you can read through them yourself, but what I did want you to see is that we're not just studying trauma in a very vague sense. We're going to be studying very specific things about trauma. So traumas in bodies, trauma in texts, and trauma in film. We're also looking at American culture to see where we can find trauma, such as, war veterans, survivors of domestic violence, survivors of Hurricane Katrina, for example, who were traumatized. So we'll be looking into our own culture and abroad to sort of take what we learn in these two textbooks and expand that out into the real world. And what I hope to show you by the end of this semester is that the knowledge you gain in this class doesn't just help you in book studies, it helps you interact with people on an everyday basis. And that is an absolute fact. The people who have finished this course successfully have come to me years later and said, you don't know how this has changed the way that I view the world. It's really made me open my eyes and be able to sort of pick out people who may be experiencing trauma or who may be suffering. And that's really awesome to have that skill as you go forward in your professional and your personal careers. And so I'm hoping that you'll be able to see through this course objectives that we'll be looking at trauma in lots of different ways. I want you to specifically pay attention to number 7, investigate as a group and individually multiple themes evident in trauma theory. And these themes are going to come up again and again and again in our course. And in fact, they play a big role in your final project. So you may want to start reading through those themes right now and see if any of them kind of stick out to you. You may want to go Google some of them and look up concepts like rapeability or the word rapeable, because that's not something that's on our radar, but it's something that's coming up in the future, in the near future. So especially those people who are into social working, social work, psychology, other types of fields like the humanities fields, words that you don't recognize, you definitely need to be looking them up, because I'm hoping to reach into the future of our fields and find some of the buzzwords that are coming up, that are up and coming, rather than the words that have kind of been played out, right? So look up some of those words and concepts and find one or two that appeal to you, because in a couple of weeks I'll be asking you to narrow that down into maybe one or two or even one that you want to research this semester as a theme. So be on the lookout for those. I'm running out of time on this video, so I'll start another one and pick up where I've left off here.